Yeah, my name's Gloria Spielman, and I was born in the East End in 1963, and I lived there until I moved to Israel in 1988. I've never lived anywhere else in London, and my mother still lives there. She stayed in the East End. My late father was born there from the old Jewish community, parents from Russia and Poland, and my mother, who's from India, came there when she married my father in, I think, 1962.
And where did you live?
We lived in Whitechapel. In Valence Road. 3 minutes from the London Hospital and 5 minutes from Whitechapel train station, and 8 minutes from the old Whitechapel Library, which was my favourite place in that library.
Why?
I think the old Whitechapel Library has a very special place in a lot of people who live there, mainly the generation or two older than me. But one of the things for me that marked, what I felt was the demise at the time of the area was the time I came back from university and went to the library to go take something out of the old Judaica section, and I couldn't find it. It disappeared. And I asked the librarian. The librarian said, "Oh, we've moved it down to the basement. Nobody uses it anymore. We're replacing it with Bengali books," which I guess that was that's the population, and that was what they needed at the time. And she said to me, "Well, yeah, we can take you down there if you want. You can still look at them." So, Porter opened up the basement and went down the stairs, and there they were. There was everything I knew, everything I'd seen since I was a little girl, just in the basement, which kind of summed it up for me. So every now and then I would go back to the library, and they would open it up for me, and I would kind of spend a long time down there in the basement with the old books. And every so often, they'll come and check on me that was still all right, because I've been there a long time. But times change and the population changed, and they had, things couldn't stay the way they were.
What fascinated you about the old books?
There seemed to be, from what I remember, anything and everything. There was Yiddish, Dostoevsky and Bernard Shaw, and anything you could probably imagine in Yiddish, stacks of old newspapers. It was the smell of the books, and the thought when you opened it, the thought that, who's read them before you? And you looked at most of the books there, the date stamps were very frequent. It kind of showed, what an important place it took in the library. It was just fascinating to think who's handled these books before me. And it wasn't a rich neighbourhood, and it was a place where you really got your education. I know it's kind of a cliche to call the library the University of the East End, but it really was. Machane Yehuda sometimes does. Makes me think of Petticoat Lane. It's the idea of going to the market, buying I very much like the idea of buying from little shops, which is what we used to do then. Little shops and the market men and people who know you. Not the big faceless supermarkets, which is, where we have to buy our stuff now. But it was nice. It was lovely as a little girl to go and, get a cheese bun from Kossoff's over the counter, or an apple from the fruit and vegetable man, and 30 years later to bring your own kids back and find the fruit and veg man still there, and telling your kids, "Well, I remember your mum when she was your age." And you really don't get that in Sainsbury's. You get a sanitised, convenient way to shop, but you miss the personal contact.